Have you ever opened your phone just for a few minutes and suddenly felt heavy? You see someone's success, someone's progress, someone's happy moment, and without meaning to, a quiet thought appears. Why am I not there yet? That feeling can stay with you for hours.
Yes, and what makes it harder is that this feeling comes silently. No one sees it. You might still be smiling, still doing your work, but inside something feels uncomfortable. You start comparing your life with someone else's life.
Sometimes it happens while scrolling social media, sometimes when we hear about a friend's achievement, sometimes when someone our age seems to be ahead, and suddenly your own journey feels smaller than it really is.
And the worst part is, many people think this means something is wrong with them. They think, why am I so insecure? But comparison is not a sign of weakness. It's a very human experience.
Yes, and today's conversation is for anyone who feels tired of comparing, anyone who feels behind, anyone who wants to move forward without constantly measuring themselves against others.
We're not here to say, just stop comparing, because that's not helpful. Instead, we want to understand why comparison happens and how we can slowly reduce its power.
If you've ever felt that quiet pressure, you're in the right place.
Before we continue, if you enjoy calm, honest conversations like this, please like this video.
And subscribe to Easy English Talk if you're new here. We share conversations to help you feel better while improving your English.
You can also share this episode with someone who might need to hear this today.
All right, let's take a breath and gently talk about why we compare ourselves in the first place. When we talk about comparison, I think it's very important to say this first. Comparing ourselves with others does not mean we are weak or negative people. It's something the human mind does naturally. Our brain is always trying to understand where we are.
Yes, exactly. From a very young age, we learn by comparing. We look at others to understand what is possible, what is normal, and what comes next. So comparison starts as a way to learn, not a way to hurt ourselves.
The problem begins when comparison changes its purpose. Instead of helping us learn, it starts making us doubt ourselves. And this often happens without us noticing it.
One big reason is the world we live in today. We see other people's lives very often, especially online. Success, travel, relationships, achievements. But we usually see only the best moments, not the full story.
Yes, our brain sees these images and thinks, this is the normal standard. And when our real life doesn't look like that, we feel behind.
Another reason we compare is fear. Fear of falling behind, fear of missing out, fear that time is running and we are not doing enough. These fears quietly push us to measure ourselves again and again.
And sometimes comparison comes from caring. When something matters to us, like career, relationships, or personal growth, we naturally look at others in that area. So comparison is often connected to our values.
That's a very important point. If you compare yourself in one area, it often means you care deeply about it. The comparison itself is not the enemy. What we do with it matters.
Exactly. Once we understand why comparison happens, we can stop blaming ourselves. And when we stop blaming ourselves, it becomes easier to change the habit.
And that's where real progress begins.
Because now the question becomes, what is comparison doing to us emotionally?
Yes, and that's what we'll talk about next.
What makes comparison so difficult is that it doesn't hurt loudly. It doesn't always come with strong emotions at first. Instead, it works quietly in the background, slowly changing how we see ourselves.
Yes, comparison often starts very small. You see someone else's success and you feel a little uncomfortable. Not angry, not sad, just less happy than before.
And over time, that small feeling grows. You begin to question yourself. You start thinking, am I doing enough? Am I moving fast enough? Even when you were feeling okay just a few minutes earlier.
That's the quiet damage. Comparison doesn't always push us to improve. Sometimes it slowly takes away our confidence. It makes us forget how far we've already come.
Yes, you stop celebrating your own progress. Your small wins don't feel important anymore because someone else seems to be doing something bigger, faster, or better.
And that can be very exhausting. Instead of feeling motivated, you feel tired. Instead of feeling inspired, you feel pressured. And pressure is heavy to carry every day.
Another quiet effect is that joy becomes difficult. Even when something good happens in your life, your mind quickly compares it to someone else's life, and the happiness doesn't last.
Yes, you might achieve something you once wanted, but instead of enjoying it, you think, others have already done more. That thought steals the moment.
And perhaps the most painful part is this. Comparison can make us feel like we're behind in life, even when we are exactly where we need to be.
That feeling of being behind is very powerful. It creates anxiety, it creates self-doubt, and it can make us rush decisions that don't truly fit us.
That's why understanding this quiet damage is so important. Not to scare ourselves, but to protect ourselves.
Yes, once we see how comparison affects us, we can begin to loosen its grip.
And the next step in doing that is understanding what we don't see when we compare ourselves with others.
Exactly, because comparison is often based on very incomplete information.
When we compare ourselves with others, we usually think we are seeing the full picture. But in reality, we are only seeing a very small part of someone else's life. And that small part is often the most polished version.
Yes, most of the time we see highlights, not the full story. We see success, smiles, achievements, and good moments, but we don't see the stress, the doubts, the failures, or the long nights behind those moments.
Exactly. Everyone edits what they show to the world, not always on purpose, but naturally. People share what they are proud of, not what they are struggling with.
And when we compare our behind-the-scenes life with someone else's highlight reel, it creates an unfair comparison. We start judging our whole journey based on someone else's best moment.
Another thing we don't see is timing. People start from different places. They grow at different speeds. Some people bloom early, some later. But comparison ignores all of that.
Yes, two people can be the same age and still be on completely different paths, different responsibilities, different opportunities, different struggles.
And sometimes what looks like success from the outside doesn't feel the same on the inside. Someone might look confident and settled, but still feel lost or unsure.
That's such an important point. We often assume that reaching a certain place means happiness automatically comes with it, but happiness doesn't work like that.
So when we compare, we are often comparing our real life with someone else's filtered version, and no one can win that comparison.
Yes, understanding this doesn't make comparison disappear immediately, but it softens it. It reminds us to be more gentle with ourselves.
And once we see how incomplete comparison really is, we're ready to learn a small truth that can change the way we see our journey.
A truth that brings relief instead of pressure.
There is one small truth that helped me the most when I struggled with comparison. When I understood this, the pressure didn't disappear completely, but it became much lighter. The truth is this: life is not a race where everyone starts at the same line.
Yes, that idea alone can change so much. We often think everyone is running on the same track, toward the same finish line. But in reality, everyone has a different path, a different pace, and different obstacles.
Exactly. Some people start earlier, some people start later, some people stop and change direction. And none of that means someone is winning or losing.
Comparison becomes painful when we believe there is only one correct timeline, when we believe we should be there by a certain age or moment, but life doesn't follow a fixed schedule.
Yes. When we say, "I'm behind," we're often comparing our current chapter with someone else's highlight chapter, and that comparison ignores everything unique about our journey.
Another part of this truth is that progress looks different for everyone. For one person, progress might be visible success. For another, it might be healing, learning, or simply surviving a difficult time.
And those invisible forms of progress matter just as much. They don't show up on social media, but they change who we are on the inside.
So, the small truth is this: you are not late. You are not slow. You are simply on your own timeline.
When we truly accept that, comparison starts to lose its power. We stop asking, "Why am I not like them?" and start asking, "What does my life need right now?"
And that question feels much kinder.
Once we see comparison this way, we can finally talk about what to do when comparison appears again.
Yes, because it will, but we can handle it differently.
Now that we understand comparison better, the next question is very practical. What can we do when comparison appears again? Because let's be honest, it will appear. The goal is not to remove it completely, but to reduce its power.
Yes, and one of the most helpful steps is simply noticing comparison when it happens. Not judging it, not fighting it, just noticing and saying quietly, "Okay, I'm comparing right now."
That small awareness already creates space. Instead of being pulled into the comparison, you step back a little and observe it. And observation is much calmer than reaction.
Another very practical step is reducing comparison triggers. For many people, social media is a big one. That doesn't mean you need to delete everything. It just means you can choose when and how you engage.
Yes, sometimes taking short breaks helps, or unfollowing accounts that make you feel small instead of inspired. Your mental space is valuable. You're allowed to protect it.
I also find it helpful to turn comparison into reflection. When you feel comparison, ask yourself, what is this showing me about what I want? Instead of letting it become self-criticism.
That's a powerful shift. Comparison often points towards a desire, not a failure. When we see it that way, we can use the feeling instead of being hurt by it.
Another simple practice is tracking your own progress, not in a competitive way, just noticing small steps you've taken over time. Progress feels quieter when we don't look at it.
Yes, even writing down one small win at the end of the day can help. It reminds you that your life is moving, even if it's not loud.
And finally, choosing gratitude over comparison just for a moment can be grounding. Not forcing happiness, but gently acknowledging something that is already okay.
These steps are not about becoming perfect. They're about becoming kinder to yourself when comparison appears.
And kindness is what allows real growth.
Next, we'll talk about something very important: the way we speak to ourselves when comparison shows up.
Yes, because the inner voice can either heal or hurt.
When comparison appears, the first place it speaks is inside our head. Before we even realize it, an inner voice starts talking. And very often, that voice is not kind. It says things like, "I'm not good enough," or "I should be further by now."
Yes, and the problem is not just comparison itself, but how we respond to it internally. If our inner voice becomes harsh, comparison turns into self-attack, and that hurts much more than the original comparison.
I noticed that when I compared myself with others, I used very strong words toward myself, words I would never use with a friend. That made me realize something important.
That realization changes everything. If a friend came to you and said, "I feel behind," you wouldn't tell them they're failing. You would listen. You would reassure them.
Exactly. So one helpful practice is asking yourself, how would I speak to someone I care about in this moment? Then try to use those same words with yourself.
Instead of saying, I'm behind, you might say, I'm still learning. Instead of, I'm not enough, you might say, I'm doing my best with what I have right now.
Those small language changes don't ignore reality. They simply remove unnecessary cruelty. And that makes a big difference in how heavy comparison feels.
Another gentle shift is reminding yourself that thoughts are not facts. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's true. It's just a thought passing through.
Yes, you can notice the thought, acknowledge it, and then choose not to follow it further. That choice gives you back a little control.
And over time, as the inner voice becomes softer, comparison loses its sharp edge. It doesn't disappear completely, but it stops hurting as much.
Because now, instead of turning against yourself, you stand with yourself.
And that support is incredibly powerful.
In the next part, we want to speak directly to our listeners.
Yes, a message for anyone who still feels stuck in comparison.
If you're listening to this right now, we want to speak to you personally for a moment. Maybe comparison has been visiting you often. Maybe you feel behind, stuck, or unsure about your direction. If that's you, please know this first. You are not failing at life.
Yes, feeling behind does not mean you are behind. It usually means you care. It means you want something meaningful for your life, and that desire by itself is not a weakness.
You don't need to rush your journey to match someone else's pace. Your life is not a copy of anyone else's life. What fits them may not fit you, and what takes you longer may be shaping you in important ways.
You are allowed to take time. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to move slowly. Growth does not need to be loud to be real.
And if comparison shows up again tomorrow, that's okay too. It doesn't mean you've gone backward. It just means you're human.
When it happens, try to meet yourself with kindness instead of judgment. Ask, what do I need right now? That question is much more helpful than, why am I not like them?
Your progress may not look impressive to others, but it matters deeply to you, and that's enough.
You are not late. You are not broken. You are becoming.
Before we close, we'd love to hear from you.
In the comments, tell us one sentence you want to say to yourself when comparison appears.
If this conversation helped you feel a little lighter, please like this video.
Subscribe to Easy English Talk for more calm, honest conversations like this.
And feel free to share this episode with someone